And right now, our Sox insider, Rob Bradford, joins us on the Harbor One hotline, and he's presented by McFarland Energy, the home and oil HVAC company that Greater Boston, the North Shore, and all of Cape Cod depend on. See McFarlandEnergy.com for more. And by Shaw's and Star Market, perfecting the art of fresh. Good morning, Bradford.
What I'm going to do for your show tomorrow, Chris, is much like A-Rod hired all those people at the Balco trial to hold up support of the signs.
Yes.
I am going to hire people to hold up McFarland signs and back of you to have your little college game day experience at BC with Ken Laird.
I love it. There will also be a Washington State flag, just so they continue that tradition.
There you go. It should be a good time.
So Bradfo, you and I have gone back and forth on Chris Sale, a bizarre victory lap after one 5-inning start. Any updated take on Chris Sale's return after 3 more?
Yeah, I mean, I think that your take is still stupid. I mean, here's the reality of it is that have they gotten what they had hoped for Chris Sale? No, they haven't, especially when it comes to eating innings. This has been a huge problem across the board. I mean, I think you've gotten in the month of August when you get, like 8 outs in the 7th inning from your starters, that's not going to work. But the original discussion was you telling me that the people in that clubhouse didn't believe that he was going to be part of the solution. Well, has he been the part of the solution that they had hoped? No, he hasn't. But unless you are going into that clubhouse and talking to the people, which I encourage you to do, like I want you to go down there and ask these guys, look in their eyes and say, hey, did you think in late July that Chris Sale was going to be part of the solution? And then you can make your opinion from there, much like I did. But when you're sitting in the ivory tower, I guess that's what that is, the ivory tower, and say, hey, you know what? They don't believe that. They absolutely don't believe that. To not talk to anyone and not get that feeling, then that didn't make any sense to me. It continues not to make any sense.
Right, because he's not reliable. By definition, Chris Sale is not someone you can rely. I just allowed you to talk, Bradfo. I'm jumping in here.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just gave you about a minute and a half. I believe that it is stupid to say you rely on something or can rely on someone that has proven to be unreliable. And that's it. That was my point all along. I don't care. I'm sure they said that to you. I'm not saying you're lying. It's what they would say, because if they say, oh, no, I can't rely on him, then they have to deal with the headache of that locker room. Don't you understand that?
Yes, I do understand that. But my point is that when you say this is how these guys are feeling, this is how they you can think that, I can think that, the fans can think that, everyone can think that. And there's obviously a case to be made, and there was a case to be made for that. But when you say this is how they feel, and if you say otherwise, then you're lying and they are lying. Well, I like to deal in science, Chris. I like to actually look at a guy in the eyes. I like to on the record, off the record, talk to anyone. And you're right. I mean, you're right. That is a perfectly fine case to make, which you made, other fans have made, other people have made. But to say that, yes, because it's such a stupid take, they couldn't have possibly had that. Well, I mean, how many times do we hear this from players or executive or whoever? That didn't make any sense.
Bradfo, couldn't you say, though, that Rafi Devers saying that they needed more pitching could be a sign that they didn't think that Chris Sale was the answer back in July?
It was a sign that they had a lot more problems than Chris Sale. I mean, the fact is that you had Chris Sale coming back, and that was perceived in that clubhouse as part of the solution. I mean, that isn't even up for discussion. What kind of solution, like what level of solution, I don't know. But in that clubhouse, I'll say it again, they thought that Chris Sale was part of the solution. And when Rafi Devers says that, it's not only in the starting rotation. I mean, they needed a bullpen arm. The entire month, Chris Sale or no Chris Sale, you needed another arm. This is where they failed at the deadline. There was tangible times where you had to run out guys who were not equipped to pitch in high leverage situations at the beginning of the game or in the middle of the game or at the end of the game. And that was the problem. That's what he was talking about because, like I said, I mean, Chris Sale did not give them the innings that they had hoped, but when you have the sort of numbers that I cited, there's a lot more than just one pitcher there.
Yeah, that was never anything that I was discussing about Sale being enough if he was right. But have you ever written that something someone told you was a lie?
What?
Have you ever written after speaking to someone in the locker room, eye to eye, that they lied to you?
Well, first of all, if it's a quote, I would say that's their words. That's their prerogative to say that.
Right.
And what we're talking about, Chris, is that when my job is to go into a clubhouse, my job is to go to talk to people and try to glean, well, this is reality, this is not. And so that's what I do, and that's what I did.
Right,
now,
and I'm just asking, you told me to go do that and then say somebody's lying. Have you ever said somebody lied to you?
Well, and so let me ask you this. So have you talked to people? No,
you're answering my question with a question.
Okay, well, have I ever talked to someone and said and then wrote that they lied?
Right.
No, well, why? I would insinuate sometimes, or say, hey, you know what? They said this, or maybe it's something else. Sure, absolutely, I have. But I would ask you this: is that when you go in, have you ever talked to somebody and you said, okay, you know what? After I just answer your question, after talking to them, Chris, would you ever said, oh, you know what? I feel like they're telling the truth, or they're not telling the truth, or they believe in what they're saying, or they're not believing what they're saying? You do that on a daily basis, I would imagine, right?
Of course, I do it every day. I my job is to share an opinion.
Right. No. So in the office, when someone says, hey, you know what? This is happening. Either I believe what they're saying, or they don't. I believe that they believe that what they're saying, or I don't. That's what you do. But when you tell me that, oh, like they don't think this way without even going through that exercise, then that doesn't make any sense, Chris.
Yeah, I would just say the difference for me is that the organizations will share a press release. Some people just repurpose that in different words.
Right, and I don't.
And for me, I find it to be a waste of. If somebody tells me that Chris Sale's reliable, I just don't find that person a reliable person to talk to.
I'll give you an example, right? So I've heard the Red Sox spin a lot of different ways on the record and off the record about the trade deadline. Do I agree with it? Do I believe in it? Like, do I believe that they believe in it? A lot of times, no. But you know what? At least I took the time to walk up to them and ask them and look them in the face and ask them, like, get the vibe of it. And that's my point with this whole Chris Sale thing.
But your opinion is just as valid as mine, whether you look someone in the eye or not. What they say is how I discern
but
it's accurate or not.
Don't you think that the opinion might be more worthwhile if actually, like, you go through that exercise instead of just sitting there and saying Greg Hill absolutely doesn't believe this if you don't talk to Greg Hill? Like,
no,
how does that
I just
make
think it gives you a feeling of superiority over others to make your opinion feel like it matters more when in reality it doesn't.
It's just like I said, it's science, where either you go and talk to the people and get a more of an educated opinion, or you don't. And you chose not to have an educated opinion on it. You just chose just to say, hey, you know what?
I was more educated than you. You look like a fool for taking a victory lap after 5 innings.
Again, this is one of the things we're talking about when it comes to this conversation. What you said was that those people absolutely don't feel that way. That's what you said, yes or no?
I said that nobody in their right mind believes that Chris Sale is someone you can rely upon.
You said that those guys in the clubhouse absolutely don't feel that Chris Sale
They said what they thought you should hear, not what they felt.
No, you said that they felt. So my point is that whether you feel like they were right or wrong or crazy to feel that way, that's how they felt, because I actually did the exercise anyway. So there you go.
Okay, well, we can go around and around in circles with the Chris Sale stuff, but it's 6.5 games out right now. Bradford, last season at this time they were 8 games out, back-to-back seasons where fans are left scratching their head. Do you think that there needs to be a change when it comes to leadership with this team, and if you do, what does that change need to be?
I think there needs to be a change in how they do things. I think there needs to be a change in terms of how aggressive they are in terms of getting foundational people and players that fans want to invest in. I mean, I think that they obviously you can go down the list, Courtney, and look at all these guys that you got in, whether it's Duvall, Yoshida, the Kenley Jansen, Chris Martin. I mean, they're good signings, so that's fine. but you can't slow play it everywhere else and just say you could trust us. There's more foundation guys coming up. I mean, I don't think that I've said this before. That this was a missed opportunity. The American League was there to be had, and you sort of slow played it and trusted that this process was going to take you to a place that maybe was palatable. Well, it wasn't palatable. And I think that when you get into free agency, especially when it comes to pitching, you have to get uncomfortable. You have to you can't just say, this is what we see him, and that's what we're going to value it. You have to go out and get these guys. You have to start getting guys who are going to be foundational guys. And here's the scary thing, is that the leader of this team is Justin Turner, right? He's 38 years old. He might be here for one more year. Like this goes back to the Mookie Betts thing. It's David Ortiz said and everybody else said in the last weekend. That's the perfect guy. You have to find those guys somehow, some way. You blew it with Mookie. Now you have to find a way to be more aggressive the next time.
But if you're blowing it, does there need to be a change when it comes to Alex Cora, Chaim Bloom?
I think that with Cora, no, I don't think that. I think Cora is a good manager. I mean, he's proven that he's been the guy who's gotten the most out of, for the most part, gotten the most out of the guys that he's presented. With Chaim Bloom, I don't know if they need to change things, but like I said before, I think that there has to be a different philosophy, a different aggressiveness, and whether that comes from the ownership group saying, much like they have in their time and their tenure, where if something goes wrong, if you have a last place finish, if you have bad finishes, then you correct that in a hurry, whether that's with money or being more aggressive with trades. So I do think there has to be a different, whether it's with Chaim Bloom or somebody else, there has to be a little bit of different philosophy here.
Bradford, it's Razor here. Can anything positive come out of the next 4 weeks for this team?
Yeah, but Reza, I mean, here's the thing. Like, we go through this exercise too many times, right? This is one of the problems, is that you have August. This is the third straight August where you blew one of the most important months of the season. Last two Augusts, you were 12 and 16. This August, you were 13 and 15. And because of it, you've put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Now, a couple of years ago, you had such a huge lead that it didn't matter that much. But to go back to like this year, last year, September, we're left with, oh, well, just wait till the offseason. Oh, just look at Ceddanne Rafaela. It's going to be great. Well, you know what's a whole lot better than that? Is actually playing meaningful baseball. I mean, you look at some of the great stories that we have across baseball, some of these great races, you forget like the air. This is what I agree with Chris about, is that the air has been sucked out of Fenway Park. And it's not only because the Dodgers fans came in, it's just like, where is that? Where is the investment? Where is the passion? Where is the like, holy mackerel, we care about the standings when September rolls around. So to answer your question, yeah, there's some stuff, but it's not good enough.
Rob, I thought you and Ken did a great job on that on, I think, this past Saturday. Yeah, after Friday night's Dodgers game. Do they feel that above Kennedy? Is that felt by Warner and Henry? Has their presence been felt at all? I mean, that really was that Blue Jays weekend and this past weekend stand out as anomalies for me in my years of watching fan interactions at Fenway Park.
Yeah, I've said this, I've never seen a visiting fan base take over Fenway Park like the Dodgers did. And you can say, well, it's an aberration because they got all the tickets and they had the fan club and everything else. Well, the tickets have to be available to get. I mean, really, and the tickets were available to get, and they took over things. And I do think the biggest takeaway isn't even for the Red Sox fans who were there. To me, it's, well, when is the last time that you saw the Red Sox fan base do what the Dodgers fan base did? I remember when it happened. I remember back from, 2004 to 2013, whatever it was, going on those road trips, seeing parades, seeing these sort of like the Red Sox fan base just enacting their will on a stadium. And I haven't seen that. Yeah, I've seen a lot of Red Sox fans at places, but it's been like a fun getaway. It hasn't been the sort of passion that the Dodgers fans had, that the Blue Jays fans had. So to answer your question, yeah, they should take notice of it because of all the things I just mentioned.
The Verdugo-Heim meeting of the minds on the field Wednesday night. We're hearing that it lasted like 20 minutes. Do you have any idea what that was about or any inkling?
No, but so it was a great photo, but a bizarre one. But the reality was that so they were doing this family picture day after the game, so that's why everybody was on the field. But if you look at that photo, it seems like they just walked out to the outfield.
Interesting. It did look like that.
Yeah. So so if you just widen that photo, there's like a ton of other people on the field. So, so there was like this family photo day. That's why everybody's on the field. But I was thinking about I'm like, why is everyone like freaking out? Like, oh, they don't know that there's other people on the field. That is a bizarre look if you look at it that way. But it's still, I mean, the fact is that Verdugo wants an extension. They haven't offered him extension. You know, you get to this offseason, it's going to get uncomfortable because he's going into his last year of his contract. So any sort of conversation, I will say that, is that you have that length of a conversation with a chief decision maker. Yeah, it should be notable because I don't think those things come around all the time, even if there are balloons and animals and whatever and photographers right around where they're talking.
Did Abe try to sneak into the family photos?
How about this? Speaking of photos, the team photo, Kyle, our good friend Kyle Barraclaw, pour one out for Kyle for taking the L the other day. He was dropped in the one day on the team picture. So Kyle Barraclaw is in the team picture. So there you go.
You'll always have that for a Christmas card.
I will. Like, find the Kyle Barraclaw in the team photo. Yeah.
All right, Rob. Fun as always. Greg will be back, and we'll do this again on Tuesday.
All right. Have fun tomorrow at BC. Good stuff. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks.